All right, Rob, I said it, the big game. South Carolina prevails over Caitlin Clark and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Great for Dawn Staley. Third championship for her, Rob. They go undefeated 38-0 or 37-0. And just 38-0. Fantastic finish for Dawn Staley this season. And, of course, coming back last year from the 36-1 season when they lost to Iowa in the Final Four and getting that revenge. And Dawn Staley, Rob, very gracious in victory. And she said some incredibly kind words about Caitlin Clark. Here she is.
Personally thank Caitlin Clark for lifting up our sport. She carried a heavy load for our sport, and it just is not going to stop here on the collegiate tour. But when she is the #1 pick in the WNBA draft, she's going to lift that league up as well. So Caitlin Clark, if you're out there, you are one of the GOATs of our games, and we appreciate you.
Rob, obviously it's easy to be gracious in victory, but she didn't have to say that.
No,
I
was gonna say that's the gracious way to win, Chris.
Absolutely.
For real. I'm dead serious. She doesn't have to take away any shine from her players and her moment. It's their moment. They won. She doesn't have to do that, and nobody would frown upon it. You know what I mean? If you're celebrating what you were able to accomplish, and for her to take the time to do that was fantastic. It just was.
And she recognized that while, of course, there are many great women's players in college this year, and there have been obviously for decades, she recognized, though, that the one who's really driving this resurgence the most is Caitlin Clark. And a lot of people you talk to, right, we're going to get into this in the third hour, but, you start talking about Caitlin Clark, and they start talking about all the other great players. You know what I mean? Like, they don't want to give her too much credit. And so I give Dawn Staley, a lot of props for what she said. But anyway, Caitlin Clark, Rob, she had 30 points, 18 in the first quarter. It looked like Iowa might get a win the way she started, but it wasn't to be. But, Rob, we talked about it. Could she be the GOAT without a ring? I think both of us said no. I just got to be consistent. When we talk about the GOAT quarterback in NFL history, the GOAT male college player of all time in basketball, the GOAT NBA player, rings is not the only thing, but it's a factor. And Rob, Dan Marino, we've had many people say he was the best they've ever seen.
He was in a conversation for a while, Chris. Yeah, he was.
But I mean, we look at it now like he was great, but not even one ring. You just can't be in the discussion. And we've talked about Aaron Rodgers, obviously another one who's awesome and an all-time great. But with just one ring, he's really not in that discussion. And so I think, Rob, Caitlin Clark, she can be on the periphery of the conversation. And I think she should be because of the impact, but she cannot be the GOAT in my book.
I just think that it is so overused and it has been worn out. Even Staley saying she's one of the GOATs. There's no such thing.
Well, technically, think about it. One of the greatest of all time.
Nah,
I agree with you that we talk about one person, but you can actually, you can say that.
She can say, if she says she's one of the greats, that's fine. But if the greatest of all time is one person or one.
But can you say one of the greatest of all time?
I just think she could say she's one of the greats. But what people want to hand out more than one GOAT title. That's why you lose me. Like somebody's the greatest. You got to make a pick, Chris. It ain't life or death. It ain't right or wrong. Everybody has different criteria. Why can't you just pick one person? What is so hard about that? Okay, if you want to pick Kareem as your GOAT, that's fine, and you make a case for Kareem, that's fine.
You know why
want to pick
she
LeBron? You want to pick somebody? Yeah. I mean, go ahead. But there's only one GOAT. Stop it.
She doesn't because she doesn't have a radio or TV show like us.
Okay.
In her position, she doesn't have to. You know what I mean?
I know,
she doesn't have to.
but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get it. If you're gonna talk about it like a debate,
yes,
then don't just kill the conversation at the beginning and be like, "Oh, there's really no GOAT." It's
right.
a lot. Well, of course we know there's no official GOAT ranking. All right, there's no, and
right.
you can have your opinion. It's just a discussion.
And to say that she's
But I get what she said.
Caitlin Clark is one of the greats in women's college basketball. You say it that way, no one is going to argue with that, Chris, because that's a correct statement that she's one of the greats. And then you could say, my God, all these different people have contributed so much to the game. But at this point, right here, right now, Caitlin has done an unbelievable job of elevating our sport and having more people tune in, to watch women's college basketball in a long time or ever. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah.
That's something. But you can't discount poo-poo winning and things like that. Because
you agree that you have to have a ring.
At least. I bring up Marv Levy all the time, Chris, because you can't.
And Rob.
And he went to 4 straight Super Bowls, Marv Levy. You know what I mean?
And Caitlin Clark went to 2 straight championships.
Right. That's not, to me, it's not about getting there. It's about winning. And you don't have to win every single time, but you can't be in that conversation without winning.
Interestingly, Rob, obviously she was the Gatorade National Player of the Year as a senior, I believe. She never won a state championship in high school. So that's interesting. As great as she was, obviously. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think, but here's the question. Is she the most impactful women's player ever? It's hard to say because Cheryl Miller was impactful because she kind of put college basketball on the map, Rob. You know what I mean? Women's college basketball. I mean, nobody was paying much attention to it until her. But like I said at the beginning, and as Dawn Staley recognized, I mean, she's driving this thing. And we talked about it a lot last week. Will this translate to the WNBA? I think a good question, Rob, is maybe an even better question, will the college tournament next year for women be close to this? I don't think you can say it'll be as good, but will it be anything close to this? Some of it might depend on what Juju Watkins ends up doing next season. How dominant is she? If she's incredibly dominant throughout the season and, just playing a breathtaking style, then maybe. But it's of course it's going to fall off some. The question, I think, Rob, is will it fall off a great deal and kind of go back close to what it was before?
Well, that's what I think, Chris, and that's where you could really gauge her impact. If this is just a one-time deal, a unicorn, people just want to see the logo threes, and then next year women's college basketball goes back to what it was, then It was just about her. She really didn't have a huge impact because it didn't change. I'm not poo-pooing
Well, I
her
don't think you take her impact away, right?
No, but I'm talking about on college,
change the game,
on women's college basketball is what I'm saying. Impactful means next year they're getting big numbers too because everybody still wants to see Juju and these other players because she turned them on to it. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, but what about, so I don't agree with that definition because when Jordan left the NBA, the ratings fell off. You know what I mean? So does that mean he didn't have that impact?
No, but I'm talking about the record-setting numbers. Michael Jordan have record-setting numbers in college basketball?
No, I'm talking about the NBA. When he left the NBA, the ratings went down.
Yeah, but the game had progressed and moved forward and became bigger in American sports history and in sports. I think it became bigger. I'm just saying I don't know what the impact yet is with women's college basketball. We'd have to wait next year. Not just TV ratings.
To me, that's going to be on the rest of the players. I think her impact is cemented. It's really the rest of the players. Can they carry that momentum that she got? She got the train rolling. Now, can they keep it going? I think that's what it is. And is the public just as interested? Can Caitlin Clark be the GOAT without a ring? Your thoughts?
All right. Let's kick it off with Gene in Boise. You're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Gene?
Hi, Chris and Rob. Thank you for taking my call. Been listening to you for the last year or so, and I really enjoy you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
we appreciate
it.
that.
So, regarding Miss Clark, you may not be able to call her the GOAT, but you have to call her one of the GOATs. When you consider how she transformed the game of women's college basketball, ticket prices, viewership, sponsors, maybe people even like myself who really watched that sport from a distance, I was all in the last couple of years, man. You cannot discount that.
No one
and
is.
Associate the title of GOAT.
But that doesn't make her the greatest of all time, Gene. I
He's
get
saying
it.
one of the greatest of all
I
time.
said that.
And that's a legitimate
You could
statement.
call her a great college basketball great, but when you talk about the GOAT, the greatest of all time, who is the greatest of all time? We don't list 8 people. I mean, we don't. So now because Caitlin didn't win, we now want to add 4 people to the GOAT conversation. That's not how it goes. She lost. She lost.
I think, Rob,
one counterpoint, though, is she's done some things that no other college women's player has done when you consider what she's brought.
And she's also done something that a lot of great women's college basketball players have done. She hasn't won. Okay? So
I think, Rob,
that's fair.
You're getting hung up on just the term GOAT. They're saying she's one. GOAT stands for greatest of all time. So when you say she's one of the GOATs, I mean, that's grammatically correct. There's nothing wrong with it.
Okay.
But when if you press somebody to say who is the GOAT,
she's not.
No, she's not. I don't know. I want to hear if anybody thinks she is. Now, Rob, she's the best I've seen, but you still got to have some accomplishments team-wise. If we do that in football, Rob, where in football, it is actually, you're more reliant on your teammates to win than you are in basketball even.
I just think, Chris, this is what happens when the person they wished had won didn't win, and they want to include her in that. That's all. And I'm not against her.
But I think she should be included.
I
in
think
the conversation.
you could say she's one on the greats, but everyone will talk about everything other than winning a championship. Oh yeah, she did this. She did this with the TV rating. She did this with that. She did. That's fine. That's fine. Steph Curry was something to see too when he was playing at Davidson in the tournament, Chris. They didn't win anything. Nobody said Steph Curry's one of the greatest college basketball players ever. What he did with Davidson was unbelievable. Right? That's all I'm saying. Steph didn't win. Nobody tried to crown him the greatest college player ever. He was incredible. I covered a lot of that Davidson during that run. Scott, in Pennsylvania, you're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up?
Good evening, gentlemen.
How are you?
What's up?
I would just have a question. GOAT, non-GOAT, not sure. Like Chris said, she might be one of the best I've ever seen. Now, I didn't see Cheryl Miller in her prime. I was a little young for that. But do you find it more impressive, her taking a non-powerhouse team to 2 back-to-back championship games, or like watching the Bird and Taurasi show? They were kind of busted on her. Or them all joining together and just continuing to win. Like, what do you find?
I think that's a good question. Here's what I'll say. Because obviously, look, the women, most of the women that won 2 or 3 or even 4 championships like Breonna Stewart, they went to these powerhouse programs. They won them at UConn or Tennessee. Cheryl Miller won 2 at USC, but they had Cynthia Cooper, Paula and Pam McGee, who were they were full of All-Americans too. And when they left, Miller didn't win it her junior and senior year. So I just want to put that out there. But here's the thing. There have been a few, like Cheryl Swoops, who we actually had on the show last week. She didn't go to a powerhouse. She went to Texas Tech, and she led them to a championship. So it has been done in women's basketball where just one great player led a team that wasn't a blue blood to the championship. You can look at it two ways. You can say, well, it's easier for the women to win it at UConn or Tennessee. But here's the thing, Rob, and I think you'll agree with me. If a Diana Taurasi or a Shamika Holsclaw or Candace Parker or Maya Moore, somebody, if they had gone to another school where they were the show, I mean, honestly, they probably put up numbers similar or close to what Caitlin Clark does. I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you look in the top, we know she's the number one leading scorer in women's basketball history and all college players or Division I NCAA. But there are no UConn or Tennessee players, Rob, in the top 10 because they shared the ball. It's similar to the NBA. Larry Bird is not in the top 10 scores. I got to look. He might not even be in the top 20 anymore. Magic, is up there. Magic is like 7th in assists now. But their numbers aren't as good, but they won. And they were the reason their teams won. And so I just think, you can say, oh, she would have won it with a bunch of, lesser players versus players that won it with superstars. But their numbers suffered, Rob, because they sacrificed numbers kind of to win.
Yep. Let's squeeze one more in, Chris. We got Perry from Louisville. You're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Perry?
What's up, fellas? Thanks for taking the call.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
I think I agree with Rob in the fact that if she doesn't have a ring, I don't think she can be considered the GOAT. But I think she can be in the conversation, and to me, that's significant in itself. And then also, as far as her impact, I'll put her up there with Woods, Usain Bolt, Michael Phelps. He had a huge impact, ring or no ring. And, at least from the people in my circles, she brought a lot of eyes to the table. And we're kind of watching next year for Juju and this next crop of stars.
I doubt the numbers are going to be the same.
Well, they won't.
I'll be stunned.
But that's not even.
No.
I just think if they're half of that, Rob, they're tremendous.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'll believe it when I see it.
If they get 9 next year, that'll be huge.
I'll see. I'll believe it when I see it. That's
I gotta be. I might not have even watched it if she hadn't. I mean, maybe I was into South Carolina a little bit, but yeah, she brought it. All right,